Hi, everyone, and welcome to Voices of Introspection. I'm Harini Balachandar, your host, and someone who's endlessly curious about the journeys of personal growth and transformation. Welcome back to part two of this inspiring conversation with Chere. In this segment, we are going to shift gears and delve into how she blends mindfulness and breathwork into her coaching sessions. It's fascinating to think about applying these practices to tackle real world corporate challenges. And I can't wait to hear how Sherry approaches this unique intersection of introspection and high performance coaching. Let's dive in. To kick off part two, Sherry, I'd love to hear more about how mindfulness and breathwork comes into play in your coaching sessions. For instance, if someone comes to you with a specific corporate challenge, they might expect you to give them a step by step solution like a checklist to follow. But it's quite unique if you ask them to pause, reflect, or even meditate instead of jumping straight into the problem solving. So I'm curious, how do you incorporate mindfulness and breathwork into those kind of sessions, especially when clients are navigating high pressure corporate situations?
Yeah. Um, I'm going to answer that. I'm going to tell you a short story that'll help me answer that. But yeah, the reason my business is called Sage Advisory is not because I'm the sage, it's because the client is the sage, right? And so the practices that I do, I think, help people tap into their inner wisdom that is already there, that sometimes is murky because they are running at breakneck speed or they're afraid or they just have some conditioned ways of behaving that are, serving them. Um, and so the story I'll tell you is many years ago, I was looking at leaving my job and taking another job. And I told my boss that I was just bored at my job and I was tired of it. And it was hard. It was a hard decision because it was before I took the job as the president of the startup. So I was a single mom of a 3-year old and financially not in the best shape because I got divorced right before the 2008 financial crash. So it was not a time to take risks, but I know myself and I know that if I'm not growing and learning and being challenged, I don't feel good. Like I'm not enjoying life and I needed to do something new. And this startup was recruiting me very, they were very persuasive and they kept coming back with different offers. And I was talking to my meditation mentor about it, who also had a corporate career. And and he said to me, Sherry, he's like, think of your brain as just a fine set of tools. Like it's an amazing tool, right? Can you just take all of those analytical tools and just lay them down for a minute? Just be quiet, get into your body just for a moment. And what does it say? What does it say? Because I was driving back from a business trip and I was on the phone with a friend and I had basically argued to her, not that she cared, but argued to myself why I was going to take this job. And really smart people in business, which almost everybody in business is really smart. Your analytical mind can argue anything any way you want it to argue, right? You can always build a case. And I was doing that back and forth and really exhausting myself. And I remember sitting in my car about to go into the house to greet my little son, and I just got quiet and I just sat there and I said to myself, okay, you've taken this job. How do you feel? And my instincts, my whole body went no, just went
Oh,
no,
wow.
just went no, no big explanation, just said no. And I didn't take that job, and thank God I didn't. I think there were reasons for that no. I think there were things I was picking up in conversations that were kind of eroding my trust of the people I was talking to. But it was nothing, there was no concrete proof, but it was an instinct. And it was a good instinct because they ended up restructuring their finances the following year. Almost the whole leadership team was laid off. People weren't paid bonuses. So I really dodged a bullet by just having this sense of no once I got quiet. And then I took this other job as president and founder, which is one of the happiest times of my life and working for wonderful people. So what I do in a coaching practice is a mixture of, there are a number of what I will call analytical tools of let's do a values exercise. Let's talk about what your dream job is. Lots of coaches have those. But your analytical mind can just only take you so far, right? It can only go so far. And you have a deeper wisdom beyond that, beyond your own logic. And what I find a lot of people struggle with meditation, and it's rightly so. Like, if you don't have a consistent practice, it can be very uncomfortable. And it's not necessarily right for everybody. Like, for some people, telling them to sit still for 5 minutes, I mean, it's just absolute torture for any number of reasons. And what the breath work serves to do is just a few minutes. In a coaching session, sometimes I might just do 5 minutes of breath work, and then I'll do a custom meditation focusing on whatever it is that they are struggling with. I will script it specifically for them. And the breath work will calm your nervous system down. It's gonna down regulate your nervous system. Your heart rate is likely going to go lower. Your breath is going to get deeper. um, when you're stressed and you're in fight or flight, you have this all these things that happen in your body, like your pupils dilate, certain hormones get sent from your brain into your body, your breath is shallow, like it's really hard to see the big picture. So the breath work helps to physiologically get you in a state so when we do the meditation is that much more powerful. And so I'll do custom breath works and custom meditations to help them get to this place where they're calm, they're clear, there's no fear. They're operating from a place that is combining both their mind and their heart and making big decisions and figuring how to go forward. And then we can talk about, I can help you think through how to solve this problem, or what are your different options. But I'm constantly trying to get the client to understand that they really know what to do. They really do. But I think it's helpful to have these practices, even if it's only 5 minutes, just to find a way to tap into that inner wisdom.
It's really about cutting through the noise and turning inward, right? So often we get caught up in other people's opinions and the endless cycle of overthinking, constantly analyzing what's next. It's easy to get lost in that maze of thoughts. Meditation creates that space for peace and quiet within your own internal universe. It helps you reconnect with yourself and find clarity amidst the
Yeah.
and
And we're so
Mhm.
conditioned to put everyone else's needs above our own, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
so
yes.
being aware of that conditioning and being aware of what's really true for me right now in terms of what I think is the best course of action versus what is my conditioning that is maybe not a good way of managing issues in my life. And I'm
Mhm.
constantly putting everyone before me is a typical issue with a lot of women.
I'd love to hear more about the instinct you mentioned. When do you decide to act on your instinct and when do you find yourself doubting them? Is there a way you can quickly sense when you should trust that gut feeling? I mean, a lot of people say that they don't trust their gut. What does that mean to you? And do you have any advice on how someone can learn to trust their instincts more? Is there a physical way to identify it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert, but I read a book many years ago called How We Decide that talks about how experiences over your life create this kind of intuitive knowledge in the cells of your body that become your intuition. And to your point, sometimes that's a bad thing, right? Like, and I think one of the things they talk about in that book is um, I'm not going to be political, so I'll keep it high level, but like kind of the instinct to quickly racial profile someone, um, via police force. Like, why does that happen, and what are the experiences that lead to someone, taking action that's not good in that instance? So, our instinct, yeah, it isn't always wise. It depends upon how we grew up and how we've been conditioned. And that's why you have to have a contemplative practice to kind of discern what is a good instinct versus fear versus societal conditioning that is maladaptive for you. But one of the things that they talked about that I do still use on a regular basis is when you're trying to make a big decision, absolutely think about it. Make the pros, and I do this. I make pros and cons lists. I talk to people. I get other opinions. I think, and then just go off and like do something else. Like they suggest, go play basketball, or I'll go do yoga, or go for a run or something. And when you're not thinking about it, your brain actually is thinking about it, right? It actually is processing. So sometimes I'll be in the middle of a yoga session and I'll have an answer, and it just comes. Right? Or somebody's in the shower and the answer just like comes. And that's your mind that's continuing in the background to kind of work through this issue without it being, a deliberate effort on your part. Your mind's still working through it. But it's tricky, right? It's a tricky process, but that's what I would suggest.
It sounds like we are often guided without even realizing it, right? We end up heading in the direction our mind and body points us toward, and eventually we get to where we need to be. So, my next question is for professionals who feel stuck or stressed. What simple mindfulness techniques would you recommend to help foster introspection?
Yeah. I mean, a quick technique if you're feeling like you are in, and I say the terms fight or flight. I don't know if that's familiar to a lot of people. I think it's important to point out if people aren't aware of that, there is a negative bias of the brain. And it's there because when we were cavemen and we were being chased by lions, or you're in a caveman and you are next to a bush, and that bush there's a rustling, and if you assumed the worst, that it was a lion, and you ran, then your genes continued, right? If you're happy-go-lucky and you think everything's fine, then you got eaten by the lion, your genes do not continue. So we largely have an overly negative brain because our ancestors who worried and worried and worried, survived and lived. And unfortunately, today, in most places of the developed world, like, lions are not chasing us, but we physiologically react like a lion is chasing us when someone's laughing at us in a staff meeting or someone cuts us off in traffic. So before introspection comes, I think comes just calming yourself. And a technique that was published January, I think, of 2023, to be like one of the most powerful breathwork techniques, actually more powerful than 5 minutes of meditation today, meditation daily alone, is called a physiological sigh. And you can go in the bathroom and do this for 5 minutes, but it's really more effective if you do this for 5 minutes every day. People who do this for 5 minutes of every day have reduced stress, they sleep better, they have, overall improved mood, which is going to lead to better introspection and clearer thinking. And the way that you do that is you always breathe in through your nose. Your nose moistens the air, it filters the air, it makes the oxygen more available to your lungs. When you're breathing through your mouth, you're telling your brain and your body that you're in crisis. So I'm going to breathe through your nose. And you breathe in very deeply through your belly and your chest. And when you can't take even anymore, you take in another breath and then a slow exhale. So it kind of sounds like this. I'll do it in the microphone. And then another breath, and then a slow exhale. Just 5 minutes a day. Or if you're in a staff meeting and you need to go to the bathroom and calm yourself down, just go calm yourself down for a few moments. Bigger aspects of introspection: hiring a coach, having somebody who's giving you a mirror, journaling after meditation. There's lots of different things that you can do, but I would do something because it's incredibly important to your life, not just your career. I think to be introspective as you go forward.
It's like when we get frustrated with our kids, we take a deep breath to calm ourselves down, right? That works almost instantly because we recognize they are just kids. But when we face that same frustration with adults, our immediate instinct is to react. This ties back to our earlier conversation, but I think intentionally focusing on our breath and taking a step back to calm down is such a powerful tool. Removing ourselves from the situation, taking some time to calm down, it really is essential, especially in today's world where stress seems to be at the root of so many health issues. So, thank you for sharing that technique. It's incredibly helpful. Now, as we are nearing the end of our session, I'd love to hear your advice. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone thinking about making a career shift towards their passion, like coaching, something like what you have chosen?
I was a senior vice president at Weight Watchers for a few years, and in 2020, before COVID happened, we were on a Oprah tour. She was going to 9 cities over 3 months, and they were amazing, inspiring events. And I was at one in San Francisco, and she's actually quite funny. She was telling a funny story about, um, she has these young women that she mentors that went to her school that she founded in Africa. And she was talking to one, and they had just gotten out of college, and they got an offer for a job that for like $100,000. And she was saying to Oprah, well, I don't think I'm going to take it because I don't think this is really my passion. And Oprah's like, what? Like, you're a kid. You just got out of school. You take the job. And her phrase that she said that really struck me was, you do what you have to do until you earn the right to do what you want to do. Right. So, um, if you can do it, that's fantastic. Like, if you're, because I think we have to be pragmatic about our finances and be thoughtful about our business plans. But for a lot of people, I would not say just quit your job and run at something. There's actually a great book called Designing Your Life, and it is by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, and it became a very popular course in Stanford. And there's lots of great exercises in there, but one of the things that they talk about is, are there ways that, because when you're running a startup, you do a prototype, right? You kind of test the waters. You don't just go build some big thing and put it out in the world. How can you prototype your new career path? So if you want to be a coach, maybe do some coaching on the side while you keep your day job. See if you actually like it, because what you think you may like and the day to day of what that looks like may be very different. So I'd encourage them to experiment in that way with any kind of career change that they want to make. Um, because I think people probably expect me to say, run for through your passion and do what you love, and it's wonderful. My children are 17, and they're starting to decide where they're going to go to college and what they're going to major, and it is a balance of, there's a concept of ikigai, if you've ever heard of that, of, what do you love, what does the world need, what can you be paid for, what are you good at, and finding that intersection, as you make your plans.
Yeah, I think practicality often gets in the way of pursuing a passion. It's about knowing when the right time is right. Do you have the backup or the resources you need to take that leap without facing unnecessary hardships? I mean, sometimes people do get lucky. They pursue their passion and turn it into a career right off the bat. But honestly, I feel that's more the exception than the rule. For most, it takes a lot of hard work to build stable foundation before they can fully commit to their passion. That's just my take, though. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think it's luck or is it more about preparation and timing?
I think luck is a part of it, but luck means nothing if there's no preparation, right? When the opportunity comes to you, you got to be ready to go. Um, I think every situation is different. Um, and I think the earlier in your life you can pursue your passion, the better. You can afford to make mistakes when you don't have children and a big mortgage. Um, but I also think that, sometimes when I counsel people about career changes or job changes, and they're so afraid, the phrase I'll often say to them is, "You're not getting married, right? Like, if you don't like the job, you'll go try to get another job, right? Like, if you don't like the career, you can go make a shift. Like, only you know your financial situation and the risks that you can take. But and particularly people of my age who, once we take a job, like, we're very committed. I think younger people are probably a little bit wiser in this, and they're in the way that they job hop a little bit more. Um, but it's not a lifelong commitment when you decide to do something. I mean, in my 30-year career, I have been in business, but they've all been very different jobs, and I've sometimes taken on roles where, I mean, I don't even have a technology degree, and most of what I've done has been in the technology space. You try things, you see what works. Like, that's part of the joy of life.
Yeah, I read somewhere that dreams without actions are just hallucination.
So true.
So even if you did have luck, if you're not persistent and consistent with that, it's not going to last too long. So yeah.
Yeah. And probably
Yeah.
the last piece of advice would be, like, your network is everything. Your reputation is
Mm.
everything. And when I announced my business, my heart was so warmed by so many people who were so supportive, and all the people I've worked with over the years. And and that's where having introspection and being a person who's good to work with is really critical, right? Like it.
Completely agree, Sherry. Networking becomes so much more meaningful when it's rooted in genuine connections. And that really starts with taking the time for a self introspection.
Yeah.
Sherry, I want to take a moment to thank you for sharing your incredible journey with us. From your time as a corporate leader holding high level position to the impactful work you're doing now as a coach, your story is not only inspiring but also filled with so many valuable insights. It's clear that your years in the corporate world shaped your perspective in such a meaningful way, and it's amazing to see how you have channeled that experience into helping others through coaching. Thank you for being so open and generous with your experience. It's been a privilege to learn from you.
Thank you so much. I'm deeply grateful for being here, and that you're interested in my path and my story, and appreciate all the listeners as well. And good luck in your endeavors.
Wow, what an inspiring conversation with Sherry today. I love how she combines her years of corporate leadership experience with her deep commitment to mindfulness and personal growth. Her journey is a testament to the power of introspection and transformation. If you are as impressed as I am and want to learn more about Sherry's work, or if you are ready to start your own journey of growth and self discovery, be sure to check out her coaching service at Sage Advisory LLC. Thank you for tuning in to Voices of Introspection. I'll see you in the next episode as we continue exploring the transformative power of introspection. Until then, take care and keep growing.